Welcome back. Thanks for staying tuned. Stay hard Factor 91.3 Nigeria Info and Hearing Port Harcourt. I'm Dio. It's 10 minutes going past 4. Conversation continues. Thanks for staying tuned. And at the moment, or in this hour, we're discussing the case of the principal who invited soldiers to the school, or to a school, to discipline students in that school. Here's the story. Was in our bulletin yesterday, I believe today as well. Now, the principal of Rumopara Community Secondary School along the East-West Road axis of Port Harcourt says military men were invited to the school not to punish any student but to caution them against a planned attack on some of their teachers. The principal who spoke to our correspondents complained of inappropriate behavior of the students during and after school hours and called on parents to ensure they discipline their children properly. Earlier, a student of the school spoke of men in military uniforms flogging students at the community secondary school Rumopara. He said the men told students to lay down inside the school gutter. The student told our correspondent that the men in military uniforms were invited to the school by the principal over a confrontation between a teacher and an SS3 student on Monday. Let's hear what that student had to say to our correspondent again.
The boy church bango. Teacher can't tell us something come out. Teacher tell us something come out. And when the like when explain for teacher now, maybe for then they come out the bango. Teacher can carry cane flog and for math here, and math here arise. We make it converse. Come out from school. Come back again. Come go meet teacher like me. Teacher go money make I buy medicine. I think go meet teacher now. No one here waiting. Teacher can dance and say don't come back to fight me. You know say the teacher. Teacher can carry cane flog again. Flog and for I here. You can carry before this thing. Before they come out to the fight, then they come carry them go police for office. So now. Then now, I can't the boy, brother. I can't go to say then give the boy suspension till anytime he was reach.
Now, the student also described the situation as a human rights abuse.
Okay. Now I'm going to tell students like that.
Carry your face like that for this kind of words, please.
This is that they violate our human rights now. Sweet they do, and then they violate our human rights. Now this is not okay. This is not okay. Me person like me, I feel listen to human rights. Who be students? They're not supposed to treat us like so the cow. They're not supposed to treat us like this.
All right. Well, should the principal invite soldiers to the school to discipline students? Can there be a situation, a circumstance in which this might be okay? Even in dire circumstances or situations, what are school principals or school managers allowed or able to do? There's another related matters we'll discuss in the next few minutes. My guest is an educationist with many years' experience. He joined me via phone. He's Karibi George, Director of Administration and Supplies Public Relations of the River State Universal Basic Education Board. Karibi George, good evening to you. You're welcome to Hard Facts.
Thank you, Dayo.
Straight to the point right now, because I know we don't have the luxury of this entire hour for this interview, as you have something else to attend to shortly. So I must go straight to the point once again. Can there be a circumstance? Now, we will come to some of the circumstances that led to this particular situation, the backstory and all that. But first, can there be a circumstance or a situation or a scenario where what played out in this story can apply and is okay, where a principal would welcome, as the story suggested, invite actually military officials, soldiers precisely, to a school in the name or in the guise of disciplining students?
Well, first of all, Dayo, I would say straight away that it is a failure of crisis management in administration for a principal or anybody to invite the military to handle disciplinary matters in a school. First of all, by the very statutes establishing these bodies, from the Constitution to other acts of the National Assembly, the business of enforcing proper conduct, of preventing criminal conduct, unacceptable conduct in a society, a society such as ours, belongs to the Nigeria Police primarily by the provisions of, I believe, Section 2 or so of the Police Act, and then to some extent the Nigeria, the NCDC, which also
the NSCDC, I believe.
and yes, I mean, exercises jurisdiction in enforcement of proper conduct among members of civil society. The primary responsibility of the military is to handle external aggressors, and in cases where the situation is totally overwhelming for the police, then they might be invited in, such as we have in areas of insurrection and terrorism. So it is wrong for anybody, not just the school principal, to invite the military, the army, or the Air Force or Navy to intervene in a dispute involving civil personalities. And then, of course, we've seen the consequence, because they are not primarily trained to relate with civil personnel.
How about in situations where it's very bad? The students, some of them very unruly, highly indisciplined. Some of them are even said to be terrorists and a terror to their school and to their teachers. It has been said that maybe even, or definitely even, possibly some of them are even cultists, and no one can talk to them, because one of our reporters spoke with an individual referred to as a source in the school who narrated what happened, that I'm reading right now. Said a teacher was beaten up by his student after he asked the student to remove his hand bracelets. The source said he then flogged the student for disobedience. The source said the student later came with some friends, tore the teacher's shirt, hit the teacher in the head. The source also said the principal refused to call the police but opted to call the parents of the student when the incident happened. The source also said it was obvious the student was under the influence of drugs. This source went further to say the teacher has not been able to leave his house following the cut on his head. Also, the student has been asked not to return to school until examinations come up. So, this paints a very bad portrait. Even in such dire circumstances, can't we bring in the military, because they would be able to deal with this very highly recalcitrant students?
No, I disagree. I disagree, Dio. It actually ought to be the responsibility of the police to confess that the matter has overwhelmed them. And in that case, the decision to even bring in the military might not necessarily be that of the principal. It could perhaps even be the police in the circumstance. So, I mean, I don't want to be vague or ambiguous or equivocal as far as this matter is concerned. The principal erred in crisis management, administration, by bringing in the police.
Talking about crisis management and administration, when school principals or school managers find themselves in a situation maybe as dire as this, maybe not as dire as this, how are they expected to manage such situations?
Well, from what you narrated of the various eyewitness reports, one thing is very clear, and that is the fact that the teacher remonstrated with the student. The student was still recalcitrant, and the teacher flogged the student. Isn't that what they all agreed about the events that precipitated
you're correct.
situation?
You're correct so far, yes.
Okay. Now, if that is the case, I regret to say that the teacher also acted in breach of the law. Section 221 of the Child Rights Act of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 2003, and Section 222 of the Child Rights Law, number 10 of 2009, Rivers State, which is also replicated in Section 13 of the Rivers State UBE law, prohibits the use of corporal punishment. What is corporal punishment? Corporal punishment is flogging. This is a fact that we have told our school administrators many times. Of course, people will argue with you, even quote scripture, or spare the rod and spoil the child and things like that. But it is a law of the Federal Republic Republic of Nigeria and of the River State, enacted also by the River State House of Assembly and assented to by the governor. And until that law is amended, that section is amended, it remains good law. Now, there is a philosophical reasoning or objective behind this law. I'm not saying it is a perfect law or it's a good law, that corporal punishment is no longer allowed, is banned, the law forbids it. But the thinking is that the management of the behavior, the conduct, the psychology of human beings ought to start at a civil psychological level. That's why we have counselors. Even if schools don't necessarily have trained counselors, there is usually a teacher designated to perform this function. We also have social welfare officers in the State Ministry of Social Welfare. These people, by their training, may be invited to intervene in cases where children are being recalcitrant in this matter, in this manner. Secondly, teachers, schools, school authorities, administrators have been enjoined to employ parents' conference. Parents' conference entails bringing in parents and guardians of children who have been recalcitrant and trying to work a solution with them in the interest of those children. Now, let's face it, when children misbehave, if I may use that expression, there is usually an underlying reason. Sometimes they are disturbed at home, or they are disturbed by bullies, or some other thing. Now, if you cannot arrive at an understanding of the reason behind that improper conduct by that child, you are not likely to cause behavioral change. And the whole purpose of education really is to cause a change in behavior for the positive, not just the dissemination of knowledge. And so, why is it that school administrators, teachers, and so on would refuse, neglect these protocols or procedures and instead take matters into their own hands? Unfortunately, regrettably, that teacher, in flogging that child, breached Section 222 of the Child Rights Law of River State. And that's what caused this whole matter. Then let us also look at maybe another area, stakeholder management. In the UBE board, for instance, we consider the capacity of the school administrator to engage in stakeholder management as a very core, an important core value in determining whether such a person should be appointed a school administrator or not. One of the first things we test is how you relate with the relevant stakeholders in your environment, community leadership, parents and guardians, as well as even bodies like the Nigerian police, the nearest police division or station to the school. You ought to have a relationship with all these people so that even from them you may receive guidance and counsel on how to handle or manage children like this. The UB board, for instance, has been on a sensitization campaign requiring all schools to have what is called a school-based management committee, SBMC. The school-based management committee is a body that transcends what the PTA of a school can do. It involves community leadership such as paramount rulers, CDC members, religious bodies, retired teachers and educationists, and similar people, and youth leaders, women leaders in that community. And the school-based management committee is a body that you can resort to seek help or guidance on how to manage recalcitrant children in schools. Now, if you do not set up these structures and utilize these structures, you will be left exposed, with the consequence that you may not understand that the use of the military for managing civil crisis is totally unacceptable. And see what has happened, because those military guys are not trained to do carry out crisis management in such circumstances.
No,
Unfortunately, I ordinarily ought to speak in favor of the school administrators being a key functionary in an organization, that manages the welfare of school administrators. But it would appear that some of these things we have been telling them regularly and trying to expose them to, they are treating with levity, and that's why you end up having a crisis of this nature.
Now, besides the obvious, which you said it breaks relevant sections of the law, or breaks the law. No section of the law is not relevant, but at the national level and even at the state level, what negative consequences could come off that scenario? What could go wrong at the end of the day, having invited these soldiers to come discipline the students?
Well, both civil and criminal charges might very well be brought against all the parties, beginning with the teacher who did the flogging, to the principal who went out of his way to bring the military rather than using relevant stakeholders in the first instance. There are things that when the decision is collectively made, such as the school-based management committee or the community leadership, to bring in the police or even the military, assuming that appears to be the only way out, then personal liability might not rest with that school administrator or the teacher. So as long as you are working closely with your stakeholders, decisions can be taken collectively after proper consideration of pros and cons. And if it is decided, as in the case of medications that are also categorized as poison, if it is decided that, well, we need to take this poison because we have a bigger poison to deal with, then the rest of us would probably understand why such a procedure was adopted in the circumstance. But as it is now, unilateral decisions and actions will not do anyone any good. And that's why civil and criminal prosecution may lie against all the participants, except it can be shown that there are sufficient extenuating circumstances to absolve them of such prosecution.
Now, I know I have to let you go very soon, in a couple of minutes, actually, a minute or two. But my final question to you is: so,
yeah,
when a school teacher or a principal is confronted with a scenario such as this, a recalcitrant, highly indisciplined student, as may have been the case, and I use the word "may" deliberately, as may have been the case in this scenario, how should a teacher and beyond that, a school principal or a school manager handle such a matter immediately?
Refer to stakeholders, but if you're overwhelmed, primarily your first line of appeal should be to the authorities that enforce discipline within the civil population, and that is the police.
Let's start with the school teacher. So you're in class and you're giving a directive to a student, and the student is disobeying that directive. What should a teacher do?
The teacher can hold, well, first of all, report to the school administrator, your principal, that this child is being recalcitrant, refuses to be remonstrated with. And then it will be the duty of the school administrator to perhaps working with the counselor and or the social welfare officer close to that place to see if something can be done at that level to assist the child to think differently.
And if the child is not being civil.
And if you can't remonstrate with the child, then you can make an appeal to the school-based management committee, particularly if it is found that bad conduct by that child is not an isolated case, but something that appears to be common to the children or learners in that school. Then you may need to involve other stakeholders, the school-based management committee, the community, the leadership of the community where the school is located. You see, things ought to be procedural. And unfortunately or fortunately, as someone dealing with children, a high degree of patience is expected of you. And in reality, ego must be suppressed, because let's face it, Dio, I am an egoistic person, and I'm sure the majority of us, more than 51% of us, are. You give a counsel or an order or directive, and the other person refuses. Your ego is prickled. Unfortunately, because of the kind of people you're dealing with, learners, rather than maybe your own mate or equal, a higher degree of patience is required of you. And the thinking behind all those who have made these laws prohibiting corporal punishment and so on is that a lot could still be achieved using methods of social psychology and persuasion.
I do have to.
It's a huge burden, and any teacher who has undergone a course of study in education would have been exposed both in counseling courses and in educational psychology to some of these principles. Why don't we apply them? Why don't we succeed with them? There are children, successful adults today whose story contains stories or events of bad conduct and recalcitrance and wickedness when they were children. And then they can point to certain teachers who had an impact on their lives. Let's not see these learners as equals that we are fighting over matters with. Let's see them as challenges that require us to apply those principles we learned in educational management studies.
Finally, no scenario at all can justify inviting the military to beat up or discipline students.
That is my unequivocal, absolute position.
Thank you very much for your time. I must let you go right now. As I mentioned earlier on, you do have some other very important matter to attend to. My guest has been Karibi George, Director of Administration and Supplies Public Relations of the Rivers State University Basic Education Board, and a seasoned professional and experienced educationist as well. Karibi George, many thanks for your time.
Thank you, Dio.
I'll go for a commercial break now. When I return, discussions continue. I'll take your thoughts on the matter. Do please stay with us.
Connect with your customers. Advertise on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Visit our downtown office at Shop 9, Mediatrix of All Gracies Plaza, opposite FIRS, Stadium Road, Port Harcourt, and book your commercials. Call 0817 001 8162. That is 0817 001 8162. And let us connect you to your customers. Connect with your customers. Advertise on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Visit our downtown office at Shop 9, Mediatrix of All Gracies Plaza, opposite FIRS, Stadium Road, Port Harcourt, and book your commercials. Call 0817 001 8162. That is 0817 001-8162 and let us connect you to your customers. Connect with your customers. Advertise on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Visit our downtown office at Shop 9, Mediatrix of All Gracies Plaza, opposite FIRS, Stadium Road, Port Harcourt, and book your commercials. Call 0817-001-8162. That is 0817-001-8162. And let us connect you to your customers. Connect with your customers. Advertise on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Visit our downtown office at Shop 9, Mediatrix of All Gracies Plaza, opposite FIRS, Stadium Road, Port Harcourt, and book your commercials. Call 0817-001-8162. That is 0817-001-8162. And let us connect you to your customers. Connect with your customers. Advertise on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Visit our downtown office at Shop 9, Mediatrix of All Gracies Plaza, opposite FIRS, Stadium Road, Port Harcourt, and book your commercials. Call 0817-001-8162. That is 0817-001-8162. And let us connect you to your customers. Connect with your customers. Advertise on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Visit our downtown office at Shop 9, Mediatrix of All Gracies Plaza, opposite FIRS, Stadium Road, Port Harcourt, and book your commercials. Call 0817-001-8162. That is 0817-001-8162. And let us connect you to your customers. Connect with your customers. Advertise on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Visit our downtown office at Shop 9, Mediatrix of All Gracies Plaza, opposite FIRS, Stadium Road, Port Harcourt, and book your commercials. Call 0817-001-8162. That is 0817-001-8162. And let us connect you to your customers. Connect with your customers. Advertise on 92.3 Nigeria Info. Visit our downtown office at Shop 9, Mediatrix of
issues and developments around you only on Nigeria Info. Information is a two-way thing. Nigeria Info, it's your turn. Let's talk.
And now, Hard Facts. Hard Facts with Dayo.
Welcome back. Still Hard Facts, 91.3 Nigeria Info and Harcourt, Harcourt. I'm Dayo. 22 minutes to go before 5 p.m. Discussions continue. Thanks for staying tuned. And before we get back to the matter at hand, information reaching me indicates Professor George Will Winari has been appointed as the Vice Chancellor of University of Port Harcourt. Once again, information reaching us indicates Professor George Will Winari has been appointed as the Vice Chancellor of University of Port Harcourt. And that's it. Discussions continue at this time. The matter still on for discourse remains the same, even though my guest has had to leave the conversation because of a prior engagement. The subject matter once again has to do with the school principal who invited the military or the army to discipline students in a school. Principal of Remote Para Community Secondary School along the East-West Road, exit to Port Harcourt here, who invited military men to, as the principal put it, to caution the students but not to punish them. Of course, eventually they were beaten by these military officials. I did speak earlier on with seasoned and professional and experienced educationist Karibi George earlier on. I'm open to getting your thoughts right now. The lines are open, 0817 93 0002 or 0003 0817 93 0007 as well. We're live on facebook.com/Nigeria into PH. WhatsApp on 0809 030 6416. Hello, Emmanuel from Orazi. Welcome.
Hello,
go ahead.
Mr. Dayo. God bless you.
Emmanuel, go
God
ahead.
bless Nigeria. Thank you. Yes, concerning the issue on ground, I thank God for the resource man you brought into the studio to enlighten us. I'm so pained that people that they have to, people that tell us the law and teach us the law, they will not teach us the law. It's so painful that a principal forget that civil matters are supposed to be civil. That police is the people that are supposed to be civil to handle civil issues and the civil defense. Or go as far as the military. And the military as well does not know at all. None of them as well, they knew that this matter, we are not supposed to enter into this matter. It is pain. I am pain, I tell you. I cry for my nation, Nigeria. It's painful to me, Dayo.
Quite so. It is
no matter
indeed.
the height of the whole thing, like the enforcement, follow it procedure by procedure, by procedure. That's how it's supposed to be.
Absolutely.
I am pained, my brother. I am pained that Nigerian military doesn't know the direction. American soldiers will be saving people, looking for a way to help people that are suffering. But my own nation, soldier, police, will be wanting to kill the last man. I'm pained, my brother. Go ahead.
All right, Imana, good to hear from me via Facebook. Kenny Orderly goes, the level of discipline in most of our public schools has been on the decline. Many of the students are not serious with their academics and are really destructive. Please visit Government Secondary School in Doni to have a first-hand feel of what I mean. Now, Kenny Orderly, nobody's saying that students in school cannot or should not be disciplined. Once again, even if the matter has got to a point that it's the school manager or administrator is convinced that it is beyond them, you can report the matter to the... How is that difficult to comprehend? You can report the matter to the police. And even the police should not come into the school and start to beat the children because they are unruly. I've got a gift from Alu. Elo, you're welcome. Go on.
Hello, good evening, Dayo.
Hi, go ahead.
What I want to say is this. To me, invitation of the military, I don't accept it. But some of these students, because of where they belong, even when you mention police, they are not even afraid. Civil defense is nowhere to write home about. Police, they are not even afraid. But for the comment by your guest, I like what he has quoted, but he can also volunteer to go and teach in a school at Elele or places like Andoni, so that when those boys carry gun and knife, he will be quoting those constitutions and then quoting law. Probably by the time he finished quoting it, they will leave him.
Gift. When next boys in Alu, because we know boys in Alu used to carry knife and guns also. No, hold on, Gift. Let me finish. So when next boys, wait now, Gift. They don't like to hear that part, but we can send the military to go and beat up children. So, Gift, when next boys in Alu carry guns and knives again, we will just send in like 2 battalions. To go and come and deal with them in Alu. I hope you'll be fine with that, and you won't call Nigerian for to say that they are killing all of you over there. Bright from Remote Demand, you're welcome. Go on.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Dayo.
Go ahead.
My concern really, before the principal called the military people, he knew the kind of students he has in his school. But my concern is basically not calling the military people. Hello?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Please go ahead.
For example, a student in SS3 cannot express himself speaking pidgin English throughout. Is that kind of person a student?
Bright, that's not the subject of this conversation. Bright, great to hear from you there. I must move on. Hello, Isaac. Good evening. You're welcome. Go on.
Yeah, thank you, Dayo. Good evening.
You're welcome.
I've been a teacher and also a school administrator in the last 10 years.
Okay, you're welcome.
And I think I have something that may contribute to this discussion.
Go ahead.
First and foremost, as a school administrator, administration is more than heading a school. There's something you need to know as somebody who is managing a secondary school. That's what we call adolescent psychology. It must be very vast, and also, patient enough to know that the average teenager is like somebody on a journey of no return. That's a mistake that the principal did. He didn't apply that psychological part to the discussion. Then secondly, when you're dealing with teenagers, you need to know a few things about them. First, these children are from different homes, and then their response to instruction differs. So it is important that you know the quality of instruction that you are giving now to the children. Now, I have read through the issue online. I've heard a series of discussions since it started yesterday afternoon. In their educational field, it was an error on the part of the principal to have invited the military into the school. You can actually run a school and not flog the children and still retain their respect, and then the discipline will still be there. Please find out how many schools still use flogging as a correctional means for their children. There are several options that are open to the school administrator when such a thing happens. First and foremost, you have to do conference with the parents. If it's getting too tough, you can do a conference with the parents by inviting them to school. That's exactly what private schools engage in. But because this is a public school, you can do a referral letter to them. Get in somebody who is actually versed in guidance and counseling. For a school of that magnitude, and comparing what happened to that school about 2 years ago, where a child has to send a knife into another child's stomach, that school needs a very vibrant guidance and counseling teacher. So that's exactly what the principal didn't do. On the other side of it, too, let's look at it. Is it that Nigerian military are so cheap that you can, at your beck and call as a school principal, they will come to your rescue? So the military authority will also have to look at those who are actually responsible for this too, and also caution them. And that's exactly what is happening in the larger society. You have a small issue with your neighbor. Before you know what is happening, military men are all over your house, and then they are actually coercing you to do what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
For God's sake, this is a democratic society. We should stop that and allow the civil authority to do what they are supposed to do. That's actually the norm of democracy. For democracy to survive, it must conform to the economics of the society, and this is actually an aberration to the democratic rights of the children.
Now, Isaac,
let me not mention what happened to the children in terms of their expression and languages. You cannot expect what you have not given from the children.
Exactly, and that's why I have a big problem with anyone questioning those children. Yeah, and Isaac, that's why I have a big problem with anyone querying those students. They didn't teach themselves, so if they speak that way, it is an indictment on the quality of education here in River State, assuming that they've had all the educational experiences here in River State. But away from that, you sound like you've highly experienced in these matters. Now, for those who have supported the actions of the principal, and many, quite shockingly actually, do support the action, and the excuses or the reason or they're rationalizing it is based on, oh, these students are not children, they are bad people, they are stubborn, some of them are cultists, some of them can beat, some of them can kill. What do you have to say to that?
Let me tell you something. Have you ever seen a society where we have a society of free men and there's nobody that is a deviant?
Not possible.
We don't have such society. Such society only exists in heaven. We must understand that education is actually a change in behavior as a result of cultured, training. That's education, for God's sake. Education is not superimposing the culture of your people on people, but actually it's a transformation of the mind based on observable, empirical differences. If the boys are cultists, the school is there to reform them. If they are local or street boys, why are they going to school? Why the change in behavior? Education is the tool for the transformation of the society, and that is why an educated person is said to be an enlightened person. So the teachers are enlightened for the sake of those students, and they are actually engaged to actually get those students refined. An uneducated person is like a gold that is dug up from the ground as a raw material. You don't wear that one on your neck. You take it to this thing, you refine it, and after refining it, it is not presentable. That's exactly what the school does. So if the school is not doing that, then there is no need for a school in the society. The argument that the children are from a bad home, they are street boys, the truth of the matter is that what about those who are not doing it but are in the school? are they not also supposed to have influenced the behavior? So that's a secondary argument as far as I'm concerned. What is most important is that the school must assume its normal role. Every school administrator knows that the reason why he or she is engaged is so that she can contribute, or he can contribute to the welfare of the people he's managing. And it wouldn't be long. I've been doing that in the last 24 years, and the result has been quite amazing. Thank you so much.
Isaac, great to have him here. I've got, okay, he's gone. Kinsley from Obibo, you're welcome. Thanks for waiting. Go on.
Hello.
Go ahead, Kinsley.
Now, I like all the grammar your guest spoke in that studio. I have spent almost 30 years in service. See, two ways. There are some teachers that go outside what they should be doing for certain reasons, wanting to please the principal for certain benefits and all that. Some of them even do certain things anyhow. That's one side. In some cases, too, we know that we have students that can be something else entirely. But all in all, over the years, from what I have seen in my life, as a very popular teacher who has done a lot of things to sanitize the educational system, see, it pains me that in this generation, you will still be seeing a teacher. We are talking of promotion, we are dying. And somebody thinks to start looking for trouble for himself is the answer to his problem now in this generation. For me, handle these students the little legal way you can handle them and leave the rest. Because at the end of the day, you see the grammar that man spoke in the studio is what you're going to hear at the end of the day. There is nothing anybody wants to hear. It does not even matter whether the child shot you or use class on your head. So when you think you are trying to, some teachers will say, we are working based on our conscience. Conscience, if the government had conscience, we will not be suffering. The system will not be like this. So, I always tell teachers, if you like, go ahead, mess your life up. In the name of you are trying to do this. Some of us have done it with our youthfulness over the years, and we have learned our lessons. Pursue your promotion. If they don't give you, we do the little we can and leave the system. Not all these things they are doing. So those people, the teacher and the principal, should be dealt with so that they will teach other people lessons to know that you don't carry this work on your head and die. Many people will be retiring and you see them shaking with working still. People will be assisting them. For which government? For which children you are suffering for? Some of them will drive cars to come and meet you. After some years, there you are. Are you still here?
Good to hear from you. Thanks for the contribution. I got Dennis from LMA. Dennis, go ahead.
Thank you, my Oga, Mr. Dayo.
Hello, Dennis. Go ahead.
It's good to be connected to you.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to state a few things here. You're the caller that called earlier on, the expert who says he's an educationist or an educator.
The Isaac.
A while ago.
Yeah.
Made some very good points. But there is an issue that we are failing to address in our nation here.
What's that?
What just happened at that school right now is traceable to the parents at home. The parents at home should not absorb themselves of what is happening in our institution these days. Because the parental upbringing of our children these days so faulty that the teacher or the educationist in the institutions are helpless in trying to give these children some moral discipline or whatever it is. Because when the home fails, there's literally nothing that the institutions will really do. Because the Bible that we read says, train up the child the way he should go, when he grows, he will not depart away from it. 2, it says, do not spare the rod from the child.
Now, Dennis, now if you've done everything possible as a teacher, as a school administrator, you've crossed your T's, you've dotted your I's, you've done what the law asks you to do, as the last caller was, even though he was being sarcastic about it, and you've done everything that you need to do as a teacher, as a school administrator, and you're sure the student is not making any headway, and you're sure the student is going to be a bad influence on the others, why not just send the students away from school?
Now, sir, let me give you an instance. Sir.
Okay.
Let me give you an instance, sir. Sorry for your time.
Go ahead.
There is an incident that happened somewhere in university, I don't want to mention names, where the principal of the school expelled the students away from the school because of constant correction and refusal to adhere to correction. You know what happened?
No.
The students went on and gang up, their courtesan, whatever it is, and started pursuing this. It took the grace of God for this principal to rescue himself off the group of these children. At that point, these parents that are talking about civil law, not to cane child, blah, 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 we are not in the picture. The man almost ran off to the out of the state. So the problem we are facing right now with these schools is parental failure. Until it is addressed from the foundation, trust me, very soon, the students, of course, it's already happening right now. Anyway, thank you. Let me know waste your time.
Now, Dennis, as far as you're concerned, so there's a big problem. We have issues we're contending with. We have issues we need to deal with. As far as you're concerned, is the solution a school principal or administrator bringing soldiers onto a school premises to beat up students? Can that be a solution?
It is condemnable. It is condemnable. But I want to look at it beyond just that.
No, it is that. It is that.
So many scenarios that you've not heard about yet. All right. So I want us to go back and trace the root of these children's waywardness back to the parental upbringing. That's all I'm saying here.
All right, Dennis.
We all go to this country. We knew when we dare not allow our parents to hear a report about.
Dennis, I'm pressed for time, so I have to wrap it up. Dennis, great to hear from you. Now, there's a lot wrong with education in the country, and indeed in Rivers State as well. Where's the NUT? Because all this talk about, teachers this, teachers that. Where is the NUT? What are the teachers themselves doing for themselves? If I were to invite a teacher right now to this studio to come talk about the problems, challenges with education in Rivers State, what Ministry of Education is not doing, I can stake almost anything that no teacher would agree to come to this studio to talk about it. So if you won't talk about it, hold your peace. Do not invite the military to beat up any child. It's as simple as that. What is the NUT doing? I have to go for a commercial break right now. We got the news update coming up at 5. Do please stay with us.